Michael, thank you so much for joining us here at SuperReturn.
Thanks for having me.
It's been an unprecedented period of challenges for this industry. As we approach 2022, what would you say are the key things that this industry still face that are going to challenge them in the next 12 months?
No, it's just, we all went through an initial phase when COVID hit, where everybody tried to make sense of what is happening, but then the industry actually shrugged it off pretty quickly and got back to as business as normal as it gets, I guess. So this went well, but now the next step is, so what's next? Is there any effects from COVID still coming? What's happening? Obviously, pricing is high in the market. I just said it, it's kind of, private equity seems to be fully vaccinated. And if you look at some transactions, it looks a little bit like also people had a booster shot. But hopefully we don't forget that there is also flu and other things that could happen. And that's probably, if you look forward, yes, let's just make sure we stay humble and also kind of be adequately cautious still.
Absolutely, because you're still looking to future-proof investments you're making now.
Yeah, and the backdrop, if you think about the real world and now a fourth wave of COVID and everything, it still doesn't look too rosy.
And how would you say that the pandemic has affected, if it has at all, the relationship between GPs and LPs?
If anything, actually in the beginning, we were pleasantly surprised how forthcoming and how active also the conversation with our GPs was, as we also tried to be forthcoming and active with our investors. So if anything, probably we feel, okay, we've probably kind of grown together a little bit further. So that's a good thing. So, and frankly, the biggest change was obviously that a lot of the physical meetings really turned into virtual meetings, which has its challenges, but if you're, like us, we try to be in the market all the time and meeting people. So as long as you have physical foundations for some of this virtual meeting, it's actually quite efficient from time to time.
In terms of trends and issues, is there anything that period threw into greater light than it hadn't been in the past?
If anything, it probably, I don't think the industry changed dramatically, but what it did is it re-emphasized a few of the trends that were there before. So more sector specialization, which you think about, the sector that went well during this period thus far, healthcare tech, yes, this is where also a lot of specialists had their successes. So that is something definitely that was kind of re-emphasized and probably became even more important given what's happening now. And frankly, we feel it's also be very important going forward because it's not that easy to find the next good tech company or next good healthcare company given where pricing is currently in the market.
And presumably even with that sector specialization, you're still going to need the diversification that ensures your portfolio is much stronger too.
That is true. And that if you think about our portfolio, which is a global portfolio, so what we had seen during or have seen during the crisis is that obviously if you think about COVID hit from the east to the west somehow. And we also saw it in the portfolio, having the global portfolio, we were benefiting from a recovery in Asia at a time where probably Europe was so-so and the US was still suffering quite a bit.
It's interesting to hear you talking there about that global aspect, I think, because there's been so much talk about thematic investing and a sort of move away from talking about that global and geographic importance too.
Yeah, it's kind of, for us, it's, what we try to do with our portfolio is essentially creating scalable, solid returns in excess of public markets as kind of the next best alternative probably for our investors. So what this means is diversification is important, but what it also means is that the key to success in our business will be to go with the best GP partners. And frankly, the aspect, so if this is kind of, obviously we try to do a sound portfolio construction in terms of not having too many eggs in the same regional basket or in the same segment basket, but at the end of the day, it's really to find the best managers and go with them.
So if private equity did well during this period, is there an opportunity here for you reputationally to make sure that you're now seen to be using those gains for the greater good, if you like, in terms of perhaps climate change and social inclusion and actually the areas that you could be investing in for the greater good?
If you go back to the beginning of the crisis, also we asked ourselves the question, so will our private equity managers be this responsible company owners supporting their companies through the crisis, not playing games with any government schemes. And judging from our portfolio, yes, they made the test, which I think is a good testament that the industry has also grown and has kind of become more sophisticated when it comes to things like this. And at the end of the day will also lead to the fact that this will be a more accepted channel for company owners, for sellers, which in turn will make it even more mainstream. It is mainstream by now anyway, but it will be a bigger thing, which then brings us to the fact, yes, private equity should play a role. And you probably know that Allianz is a founding member of the Net Zero Asset Owner Alliance. So climate is dear to our heart and we want to come to net zero. So what we are doing is also working with our GPs currently to get the data, so make sure we know what the carbon footprint of a portfolio is as the interim step, then to formulate science-based targets to come to net zero over time.
And presumably an event like this is a great opportunity to collaborate and share those insights across the industry.
Exactly, and there's a lot of initiatives obviously being started and now also coming out with their ideas around COP26. And what we want to do with our GPs is really go on this journey, knowing that this is that this will not be from day 1 to 2, but will more like probably months and years of work. But I think, what we feel, and we've done an engagement program in this regard since last year, so we feel there's a lot of goodwill in the industry amongst our managers, and then hopefully we can take it from there with them.
Well, Michael, I hope you enjoyed collaborating this week here at SuperReturn. Thank you so much for joining us.
I did. Thanks for having me.